I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Tonight, American resolve as an around-the-clock recovery effort goes on and a grieving nation pauses for prayer and remembrance. Good evening and welcome to another special edition of Larry King Live. You're looking at a vigil in New York City on this day of national prayer in the United States and in many places around the world. Some top-of-the-item news, and then we'll meet Governor George Pataki. Among our guests tonight, the Solicitor General of the United States, Ted Olson, whose wife died on American Airlines Flight 77. We'll also meet Dr. Gordon B. Hinckley, the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. First, Pentagon sources are telling CNN that at least 4 U.S. Air Force fighter jets scrambled to intercept the hijacked jetliners that hit the World Trade Center in the Pentagon. They arrived too late to take any action. Nearly 5,000 people are reported missing or confirmed dead at the World Trade Center. The Pentagon death toll at least 190. The United States Senate approves use of force resolution. We start with the governor of New York, Governor George Pataki. Are you surprised at that report that interceptors were up and came close?
No, Larry, because we did know that shortly after the planes hit, there were fighter planes over lower Manhattan.
And
obviously, we're disappointed that they didn't get there sooner.
And what did you make of the events of today? We saw you standing with the president, with the 2 United States senators and members of the congressional delegation. What was that like for you? And Rudy?
Larry, the president's visit was exactly the right thing. He came to New York, made the right stops at exactly the right time, and it was truly inspirational on a number of different levels. You know, first of all, for all the heroic men and women down there risking their lives right now as we speak to try to save their comrades or simply get New York back to its normal existence as much as possible. They were inspired. You saw tears replaced with smiles and fatigue replaced with cheers and the waving of American flags, and it was a tremendous morale booster for those brave men and women who are still risking their lives. So on that level alone, it was absolutely critical. But I think it also showed New Yorkers that the whole United States united behind New York, and when the president is standing 4 or 5 feet from the still smoldering rubble, 3 days after that event, it tells everyone that this country will stand with New York. This country is united. We will restore New York to greatness, and America will make sure that those who perpetrated this horrible act will be brought to justice.
Governor, there are many, many people, as you know, in the United States who have less than a high opinion of New York City. You think that's been changed the last few days?
Larry, the unity is just incredible. You just mentioned Congress unanimously in a bipartisan way supporting massive amounts of aid to help New York get back on track. And today, with the president, we were visiting emergency teams from California, from Ohio, from Pennsylvania, from Puerto Rico, who had come to New York to help out. The whole country stands with New York, and we're grateful for that. And we're extremely grateful for the president's leadership and the fact that he came here today.
Do you get the feeling, Governor, and this, or you may have more information, but the feeling at least that retaliation, if that's the word, is right around the corner?
I think the president is firm and is resolved to make sure that these terrorists, and not just these terrorists, but those who harbor the terrorists, those who aid or finance the terrorists, and not just this terrorist act, but terrorism against America in general, are all going to be struck at, and I'm confident the strike will be strong. It will be long-lasting, and hopefully it will cure the world from this scourge of terrorism.
So we have a twofold thing here, Governor. We have a war and a desire for normalcy.
Well, we have a threefold thing, Larry. First of all, we have the human suffering still in New York, and we have to try to sift through the rubble. Every day it gets less likely, but you pray for miracles, and it's wonderful how millions of Americans and millions of people around the world are praying for those victims and praying for their families. And we have to deal with the human side. That's probably the most important. Then we have to deal with the rebuilding and the economic reality. And at the same time, we have to prepare and be committed to wage war against those who did it. And obviously it takes unity, It takes bipartisanship. It takes all of us pulling together. It takes a strong leader, and President Bush is that strong leader. We're going to get through this, Larry, and we're going to get all of these missions done for the American people and the people of New York.
Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country is very apt.
It's very apt, and it's exactly what the people are feeling. You know, you just today, when the president was there, you saw hundreds, thousands of people lining up, waving American flags. They didn't care what party you were or what part of the country or what part of the world you were from. They were united in supporting our efforts to help those families and to stand with the heroes who are still working in the lower Manhattan, and to make sure that justice is done for those victims and for our country and for our future.
Thank you, Governor Pataki. Always good seeing you.
Thank you,
The
Larry.
Governor of New York, George Pataki. Speaking of heroes, we're now joined by Officer Victor Laguerre. Officer Laguerre, a member of the New York City Police Department for 11 years. He and his longtime partner, Officer James Leahy, were on the scene 1 minute after the first tower was hit. His partner is missing. Is that your regular beat, so to speak, Officer Laguerre?
Yes, Officer Leahy's my regular partner.
And is that area of New York City where you regularly serve?
No, we serve Greenwich Village. We serve the 6th Precinct.
So what were you doing so close to the building?
We were on a routine patrol on 7th Avenue and Grove Street when we saw the plane go overhead. And my partner mentioned to me that this plane looked awful low. So we proceeded down 7th Avenue and we saw the plane strike the building.
What went through your mind?
We were in awe. We were terrified. We couldn't believe what we saw. It almost looked like a show. And all my partner kept on telling me is, let's go, let's go, let's get down there as fast as we can.
Did you think accident, or was it obviously deliberate?
We thought accident. It was a big plane. We couldn't conceive of it just purposely going into the Twin Towers. And our only hope was to get there as soon as possible to save people.
And what were you doing initially before the second plane hit?
We had approached VC Street. I parked the car right on the sidewalk. We ran right in with 2 Port Authority police and 1 transit cop, right into the main lobby through 7 World Trade Center. It was already pandemonium. It was chaos. There was people coming up from the PATH train screaming. There was people coming out of 1 World Trade Center with smoke coming out behind them screaming. And at that point, it was people trampling on each other, and we were basically showing the people which way out because they were so confused on what happened.
Obviously, officer, there's no training for this, so you're acting a lot on gut instinct and intelligence in a mass, chaotic scene.
Oh, without a doubt. And the scene was definitely chaotic. People were screaming and shoving and pushing and trampling each other. And at a certain point, the sprinklers went off, which made it even more difficult to get people out in an orderly fashion. They were sliding all over the place. The fire department came shortly after, and there was about 4 of them that I can recall, and my partner saw one of the last firefighters carrying a lot of canisters of oxygen, and he said to me, I'm going to help this guy with these canisters. There's no way he's going to make it up in 1 World Trade Center with all these canisters. I'm going to grab a few off his back, and I'm going to meet you right down in the lobby, Vic, and that's what I'm going to do.
Did you tell him not to go?
Oh, I told him basically, are you crazy? Look through the doors of these glass doors you cannot even see in. And he kept on insisting that he was going to be all right, that it was just an accident, that the fire department, the guys that he was with, were saying it's no problem, these buildings are safe, let's just go up and save some lives. He says,
and
I'm
then
gonna
the second plane hit, right?
Yeah, a little while after, I was with the 2 Port Authority cops and 1 transit cop. I flushed out about 3 to 4 people out of 2 World Trade Center, and we're in the lobby on 2 World Trade Center, and all of a sudden it was the most tremendous sound you've ever heard in your life.
And you hear your partner on the radio, right?
He started screaming, what was that? What is that? Vic, you're on the air. Victor, you're on the air. What was that noise? And people were screaming. People in the building that I was in the lobby, were diving on the floor and started praying to God. And they thought that the building was collapsing. They thought that 1 World Trade Center had fallen onto us. And to be frank, I thought the same thing. And I also fell on the ground, started crying, just thinking that the ceiling was going to cave in on me any time now.
You consider yourself lucky?
I consider it to be a miracle for myself to be talking to you right now.
And what about James? You haven't heard from him at all. Is he obviously presumed gone, or do you have some hope?
I have hope for him. He's a very strong man. He's a very determined man. He's very courageous. He's truly a hero. He could have stood with me to help, but he chose a harder route. And he went with the FD, and he didn't have no fire protection. He had no mask. And yet he wanted to go and help these individuals up there.
Boy, they're right when they say New York's finest. Thanks, officer.
You're welcome.
Good luck with the hunt for James. Officer Victor Laguerre. Now joining us. Incredible story. Michael Hingson has been blind since birth. Michael was on the 78th floor of the World Trade Center, the one building, the North Tower. He was guided out by his guide dog, Roselle, and another colleague. Michael, first, do you have a job in that? Did you have a job in that building?
Yes, I work for a company, Quantum ATL. We manufacture enterprise-scale libraries, tape libraries that back up data for disaster recovery situations such as this.
Really? That's what you manufacture?
The company manufactures that out in California, and my job is to manage the channel sales in New York and New Jersey.
And is it a job that can be easily handled, though blind?
Oh, yes. Obviously, I use some different tools. I use a dog to get around, and sometimes I'll use a cane. I use a computer that talks, a calculator that talks. I'll write some material in Braille. But it certainly is a job that I can do where you might drive a car to go to a place. I'll use a car service or rely on buses and trains.
How long you worked there?
I worked at the World Trade Center for about a year and a half.
All right, what happened? What do you remember?
There was an incredible bang, sort of a dull thud, but certainly very tremendous, and then the building shook very violently, and I remember sort of going, God, don't let that building tip over. I had a lot of faith in
What did you think it was?
I thought it was some sort of an explosion at first. My colleague David Frank looked out the window as soon as the building stopped shaking and said, there's fire above us, and I could hear debris falling, and he said there's just debris falling everywhere.
So your first thought now is to get out, but you're also blind, so you're working on senses as well?
Absolutely, but I knew where the stairwells were. David could see. He and I were the last out of the office. There were some guests in the office as well. They went out first. We got them out, and then we went out.
And down 78 floors?
Down 78 floors.
And what role did the dog play?
She guided. She did a tremendous job. She's from Guide Dogs for the Blind, which is one of the larger schools in the country that trains these dogs. They do an incredible job of selecting the animals, doing the best that they can to acclimatize them to a lot of adverse conditions. This clearly can't be one of them, but she knows how to cope with noises. She knows how to cope with a lot of different stressful things. So she played guide down the stairs.
That's the school in Rochester, Minnesota, right?
No, this is in San Rafael, California.
Oh, because the Guide Dogs, I always remember Guide Dogs for the Blind in Minnesota is the main base. The dog is with you, we understand, Michael?
Roselle, sit. Sit. I don't know whether you can see her.
We see her. Beautiful dog.
She's a good girl.
And a brave dog. Now,
she is.
You're walking down 78 floors. You got a friend with you and you got your dog. Are you scared?
Oh, no question. I was very concerned. I didn't hear the second plane hit, but we knew that at that time something had happened. We figured that a plane had hit the building because I could smell, and we all could smell jet fuel fumes. So we knew there was something going on.
How about other people on the stairway?
Yes, and I'm referring to them as well. There were a lot of people going down the stairs, especially when we got down into the levels around floor 40 and so on.
All right. And when you're blind, do you fear, one, they're going to push right by you? Knock you over?
No, I wasn't so concerned about that. I stayed on the right-hand side. There was plenty of room for people to pass if they wanted to do that, and some did.
Was it true some people were cheering you?
There were people that were doing that. I was cheering other people. We all cheered the firemen and the police and those who went upstairs. We were very concerned for them, but we slapped them on the backs. They were being very supportive. Gee, do you need help? Are you okay? They would ask us, and we asked them, are you all okay? Go get them. Do everything you can. Our faith is in you.
Did the firemen talk to you?
Yes.
Saying?
Are you okay? Is somebody with you? Don't worry. You'll be out okay. Just don't be scared. Just keep going. You're going to do fine.
Do you smell any jet fuel?
Lots. Yes, it was. There were fumes all the way down.
Wow. And then when you get to the lobby, what happens?